Welcome into the Atlanta football party where we're talking Georgia. Rolled into Rocky Top, rolled out with a big 38-10 win over Tennessee. And my guys, Brent Rollins and Jarvis Davis, will tell you why the offense was on one, because one guy is going to be the guy we see not just on Saturday, but probably on Sunday.
This is Locked On Sports Atlanta, and it's time for the Atlanta Football Party, only on Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Atlanta Football Party, your home for the best Georgia Bulldogs football talk. It's local insight you can't get anywhere else but right here at Locked On. I am your host, Tenitra Batiste. Joining me are Jarvis Davis and Brent Rollins. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnCollege and use Locked On College. That code will get you a first deposit match up to $100. Daily fantasy sports made easy. The Atlanta Football Party is also part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Guys, it is time to get the party started. And we got another party to start because Georgia rolled into Rocky Top and rolled out with a 38-10 win over Tennessee last Saturday. We'll, of course, go between the hedges and tell you what's next up in a few. But first, let's get your takeaways. Brent, right off the bat, you said the offense was on one. And really, if you look at the Dogs, they've absolutely dominated in running the gauntlet the last four games.
Yeah, 4-game stretch, that probably the toughest regular season stretch, at least in a row of games that you've seen in the Kirby Smart era. 163-68, about an average of 40-16 in terms of those games. So I'd say they took care of business there. Obviously, Tech still and in the NCC championship game, but outside of that, you've wondered even back to Jake Fromm and then Stetson, what would Georgia's offense look like with a first round talent at quarterback? Well, we're watching it right now.
Yeah, that's a great call because it's interesting. We're always talking about the Dogs' domination on defense, right? But it's really been a treat in a different way, because like you've said, I think it was our last show, and if not the last show, Brent, the show before that, it's actually been a treat that we're talking about a Georgia offense that could have two top 20 or say even top 10 picks in the NFL draft, whereas normally we're talking about this being a team that's going to dominate the first round, or if not the first couple of rounds, with their defensive players. This is kind of cool because, as we know, the NFL right now is all about offense, because all the conversation, even last night, was about the offense you didn't see. So, yeah, I think it's pretty cool that we're actually having a conversation about a 4-game stretch and all of this time that you've been covering this Georgia Bulldogs program, and we're actually talking about offense, which is pretty darn cool.
And that, by the way, that number now, and I think Jarvis is going to speak to this, that number for top 20 picks, offensive side of the ball, it might not be 3.
I like it.
Just 2.
I like it. And listen, Brent, you talk about the fact that if you're going from 2 to 3 and you have 3 in that conversation, what a perfect time to be having that kind of conversation, that your offense is evolving into one where you literally have scouts saying, hey, we might actually be able to pull off 3 in that first round. And one of those 3, Jarvis, is Carson Beck. You said you like what you see, and you think that he might just be playing on Sundays.
Ain't no Mike. Yeah, he punched his ticket, because when you think about like losing a guy like McConkey, and you losing RaRa Thomas early, you losing one of your offensive guards, and Tate Ratledge late in the first quarters, those are some of the things that you say, okay, the quarterback might have a task on his hand today. But Carson Beck just goes about, okay, we can use Dylan Bell. I found him. Marcus Rosemary-Jackson, yeah, we can find him too. He can get in the end zone as well. It's just so easy. It just looks so easy for him because, with Tennessee, obviously they jumped out to, the quick score on the first play of the game. And, and the defense were able to make the doggone adjustments and just make them look like who they are and what they deserve to be, when you're playing against the number one team in America. So, but I think on the offensive side of the football, it's just whatever Tennessee threw at them. It was like whether they tried to zone them up, it was just like, nope, we can find that window, and I'm gonna find my tight end right there over the middle. Or if they playing man coverage, it's just like I'm gonna make the right throw. I'm gonna put the ball exactly where it needs to be. So my wide receiver, regardless of who it is, regardless of if it's a guy on the other end of that catching that ball is going to the NFL, he's going. I'm gonna put it and make him better, right? Because like you got the name guys and Lad McConkey and RaRa Thomas that were out, but he still was able to get those guys involved in offense, spread the football around, and just it looked easy for him. And now, granted, now the offensive line made it very easy for him as well, because when you have a guy like Tate Ratliff go down, and then you just move Dylan Fairchild over to right guard, and you bring in Michael Morris, it just seemed like you just didn't miss a beat. So for him to be able to, move the ball around and just whatever the defense is throwing at him, he's able to find the open guy. I just feel like, and also he is a clutch factor too. On third downs, oh my gosh, he was absolutely amazing. So for him to be able to make those clutch throws, convert on third down, because that's the clutch factor that teams look for in the NFL. Like, hey, what can you do when we need you to make a throw? When everybody knows that you're throwing in that stadium, and like you got to get that first down to be able to continue to sustain a drive. So we just saw that time and time again from Carson Beck, and I feel like he is more than well on his way to playing on the next day, not on Saturdays, but playing on Sunday.
Yeah. And I like that thought. And we'll talk a little bit more about that third down conversion rate and how effective this entire Bulldogs offense has been on third down this entire season. But yeah, like you said, and I love, it's great to have flash. Don't get me wrong. I thought it was pretty cool to have Dylan Bell toss a ball and also catch balls as well. But I also like it when you do just and when I say basic, I certainly don't mean to minimize what Georgia was able to do, but maybe I'll use the word, Brent, efficiency. Because when you look in the numbers and you see 24 of 30 for 298 yards for Carson Beck's day, and you're averaging almost 10 yards per throw, 3 touchdowns on the day, 93.1 quarterback rating, what that also tells me is this. Yeah, when we get to third down, we're 9 of 13, but we're almost, but every time I throw the ball, I'm pretty much averaging a first down. I think that's also incredible when you dig into the numbers a little bit, to not just see that it's like a flashy offense, but also an efficient offense, that we can drive this ball down the field with our short tosses, with our tosses down the field, however we need to get it done, whatever defense you throw at us, we can do that.
He's playing the position. And by saying, not by what I mean there, pre-snap, post-snap, execution, footwork, accuracy, all these little things that quarterbacks go and drill to the nth degree with their private coaches and work on. He's doing those things better than anyone in the country, bar none.
Yeah. And I love, and it's interesting because I was listening to a conversation earlier today, right? And don't get me wrong, totally understand it, Jarvis. The conversation was, yep, we're down to Jaden Daniels and Bo Nix. And I was just chuckling to myself and I go, yep, once again, there's a Georgia quarterback that's quietly doing damage, and not, sort of in that conversation. Don't get me wrong. Certainly have seen what Daniels has done and seen what Nix has been able to do this entire season. And it is mind blowing what Jaden Daniels can do. So I'm not taking anything away from that. I'm just saying it's still rather interesting to me that Carson Beck just continues to get better and better and better. But not is maybe almost like a secret weapon for the Dogs offense, if I dare say that.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, right? Because Kirby Smart has built this empire down there in Athens, and just from a talent standpoint, just stack guys, and guys go on to the NFL and get drafted, and they just continue to just fill in those same roles with guys who potentially gonna go to the NFL and and get drafted. So it's just like, I think that that's why I feel like Carson Beck is probably not getting the benefit of the doubt nationally, because they are the best team. You can just plug in any old quarterback and they'll do the same thing. I don't necessarily believe that, because this offense looks different than it did last year, right? With Todd Monken and Stetson Bennett at the helm, because I really feel like this offense is opened up a little bit more. They're a little bit more versatile as far as throwing the football down the field outside the numbers, right? Because we know Stetson Bennett had a few limitations with that, and we know how he operated, because that's why you saw a lot of 12 personnel throwing the ball to the tight ends and getting Darnell Washington and Brock Bowers getting those guys involved last year. So now I feel like Mike Bobo just limitless as to what he could do with this offense, because of Carson Beck and his arm strength and the accuracy and the rapport that he has with his wide receivers. So I feel like the national people need to start paying a little bit more attention to what Carson Beck is actually doing, and I know it's hard to do, and not pay attention to all the NFL talent that he's surrounded by. Like, okay, I get Jaden Daniels. I understand that. And what Bo Nix is doing, he's been in college for like 12 years. So I get, the experience
he
that he
should
has.
be doing that by now, right?
It seems like he's been in college for a decade. He's close. but I think the way Carson Beck has been playing, he definitely deserves at least an invitation to New York.
And Brent, I don't want to not talk about the other side of the ball, because here's the thing too. You get this type of gauntlet. You get to run through teams and two of which are top ranked teams. You get to run through them, and yeah, pun intended, because you also have a complementary run game to what you're getting from Carson Beck. And going back to what JD just said, you can get that from just about any back as well, because they're almost at a point of plug and play for RBU at this point, Brent.
Yes, it is. And it's complementary football, and that's what they want. It's defense, offense, pace with which they play. All of it complements each other. It's truly a sight to see, I think, in terms of just an appreciation of the game of football and how it's won at the highest level. They're doing it obviously better than anyone in the country.
Yeah. And I think that's the key, the critical point there. And it's interesting because we've talked about it on the show as well in previous episodes. Even special teams is on one. Like, that's when you know that you're operating on all cylinders. When
return all year. That is crazy.
That's when you know you're operating on all cylinders, when we're not having a conversation saying, but if they could only flip the field, or but like you said, if they can only, no, we're not having that conversation about them. So I think that's also an appreciation that we have for this team playing in its totality at the highest level. And we're going to talk a little bit about, as we always do, about their identity when we talk next up. And we'll, of course, go between the hedges in a minute. But first, I want to tell you guys a little bit about LinkedIn. So think about this. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high stakes wager, especially for a small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. And that's why you should check out LinkedIn Jobs. It helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. You can add your job and the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you are hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it really easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience, so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. And it's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs the #1 source in delivering quality hires versus its leading competitors. So here's the thing. LinkedIn Jobs can help you find these qualified candidates that you want to talk to, also even faster than their competitors. You post the job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. And of course, terms and conditions do apply. Between the hedges. With the win against Tennessee, Georgia became the first team to go unbeaten in the SEC 3 years in a row since the league went into an 8-game schedule back in 1992. Now, Jarvis, that is definitely impressive, but was this 38-10 win against Tennessee the most impressive win of the season for the Dogs?
I don't know if I can necessarily say that, because I really feel like, coming into that Missouri game, that was kind of like a game where, coming into it, that they gave you trouble last year, but you able to, put the naysayers down, because Brent mentioned earlier, you talked about the gauntlet that they went through, because it was, there's a Mizzou, and then you got Ole Miss, and then you got Tennessee. Those guys were all ranked coming into those games. So when you think about that aspect of it, I feel like that first game was the quote unquote test, if you want to put it out there like that. But I really, so I can't say Tennessee with this game, because we knew that, Georgia was going to win this game. And I feel like that first play of the game, when Jalen broke that ball, what was a 75-yard touchdown, it was kind of like, all right, yeah, we're kind of used to seeing this. They're going to make some adjustments, and that's exactly what they did. And then they just went, I think it went on for like 9 yards or on 6 carries or something like that for the rest of the game. It's just like, man, this is what they do. I think that, Kirby Smart, for him to be able to get these guys prepared and come out and be so consistent on a weekly basis. I'm just like, I just don't understand how he does it. But yeah, I can't call that game was the biggest game of the win, biggest win of the year.
Which one was the most impressive one for you, if not the Tennessee win?
I would probably have to say that Kentucky game, because that game came in with a lot of hype, and I think that when I know Brent is
Like,
I have a different answer.
Oh, no problem. But I just think that coming into the game against Kentucky, I really feel like that was kind of like a coming out game for Carson Beck. He threw for 4 touchdowns. I really feel like, because I know I was questioning Carson Beck at the beginning of the year. And then when you start to ramp up, you start to see what they're doing. And then when you see him coming into that Kentucky game and to play the way he did, I really felt like, okay, that was kind of like the most impressive, just because I understand, like, that was the biggest question coming to this year, the quarterback. So if the quarterback is showing you that, hey, I can go in here against a ranked opponent and establish myself and have a hell of a game, those are the type of games that I look at and say, you know what? Hey, he's arrived, and then because we already know everything else is going to fall into place. It's just all about the quarterback.
Yeah. And Brent, you can go down. I'm going to, use your word because I think it's spot on. You can go down them running the gauntlet, whether that's the Kentucky game, 51-13, or whether that is, and I use Florida only because, not that they're any good, but just because it's always one of those games where it's a pseudo rivalry and you just kind of never know what crazy things happen in a rivalry game. Or is it Missouri, Ole Miss, Tennessee? I mean, which one of those games do you step back and say, now that was the most impressive of the season?
It's Ole Miss. Like, that game to me is the most, just from all phases of the game and just dominating the opponent. It's Ole Miss, because after the first quarter, they had nothing. You dominate. You did whatever you want. You almost 10 yards of play offensively. And that team still had a lot to play for. Like, they were 9th at the time, 1 loss, thinking, potentially New Year's 6 with the way their schedule finished up. Like, they could have finished the season 11-1 with their only loss being Alabama. Like, they were playing for everything. Like, Tennessee the East was salted away. Like, they were kind of not just necessarily having everything on the line. They were trying to be spoiler, right? But Ole Miss had everything to play for, and they got absolutely curb stomped.
Yeah. And I love the fact that we actually have, I know, right? I'm like, Brent's on one with the words today. He's killing it. I'm loving the analogies and the wordplay. But yeah, the thing you got to love about it is that you can actually have a healthy debate on which game was the most impressive for the Dogs this season, because there are that many impressive performances. Now, want to go back to something that you guys talked about in the first segment as well, and that's the amazing efficiency with which Georgia approaches third downs. Converted 9 of 13 tries on third down against Tennessee, and also, of course, on the defensive side of the ball, held them to just 2 of 11 tries. Georgia, of course, is ranked number 1 in the country in third down conversions at 58.06%. That is crazy to think about. Almost, it's like saying, hey, every 6 times we have to line up for a third down, we're about to move the chains. I just think that's unbelievable. But I think to myself, Brent, and the reason I say low key is because there are so many things that they do well. Some things kind of get lost in the shuffle, but is this ability to move the chains no matter where they are on third down, is that maybe one of the secret weapons for this offense?
From the complementary football perspective, yes, 100%, because you keep your offense on the field, your defense is able to rest, your defense is able to think about what it is they have to do moving forward. But the biggest thing with it is it's combination of quarterback and offensive coordinator. Like, offensive coordinator putting the quarterback in a position to succeed on third down. And you think about the fumble exchange that Beck had, and then I think maybe one holding penalty that they were truly behind the sticks in that game against Tennessee. That's rare.
Yeah.
Like, for the most part, it's not 3rd and 15, they had a 3rd and 12 that they completed a bell. That was after, I think, a hold as well. But, it's not long distance. It's 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7 for the most part. So it's manageable. And then you got a quarterback who's playing the game mentally pre-snap and then executing it post-snap accurately with the football.
Yeah, and that does, like you said, just put you in a position where down and distance is your friend versus your enemy, Jarvis, because most of the time you are coming into a situation where if you actually have to get to third down to convert, it's 3rd and short. So, yeah, it's a weapon in that, A, you don't get there that often, but B, when you get there, you absolutely have not just the players to get the chains to move, but you also have an offensive coordinator who can see what is going on the field. He can look at what the defense has been, what the DC or the opponent's been dialing up and say, yeah, here's the way for us to move the chains and get to, the next set of downs. If not, let's just go ahead and blow this thing out and just score right here.
And thing about manageable third downs is the fact that anytime you give in those critical situations, anytime you give an offense a two-way go, meaning where they can run or pass in those third and shorts and third and mediums, that is scary, especially when you got a guy like Mike Bobo calling plays and Carson Beck up under center. So I think that it's just advantage Georgia in every situation every time you get into those situations, because like defenses are, there's so many things that offenses throw at defenses nowadays, like with hurry up. Tennessee wanted to get into a pace, a fast up pace. When it comes to being on offense, they want to call plays and get them in and get them out and everything like that. And I think that I think Brent makes a really good point, because when you talk about complementary football, because Tennessee doesn't play complementary football, because Heupel wants to get in there and call plays and everything, and then you doing 3 and out and shoot a minute and you off the field and your defense is right back on the field. So like defensive head-minded head coaches, they aren't going for that. So, that's why a guy like Josh Heupel, he's an offensive play caller, quarterback, so he doesn't really, let me not say care. He doesn't prioritize the defense.
Good word. Good word.
You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? He doesn't prioritize it. So, and you saw the consequences of that in this game, because they continue to stay on the field. Georgia can continue to convert those third downs, and it's just a bad situation when twofold, right? Because one, like you got a two-way go when you're in those third and shorts, third and medium, so you stand ahead of the chains. And then secondly, the team doesn't really care about their defense being on the field consistently, because they aren't sustaining drives, and the doggone drives are like 1 minute and 2 minutes long. So it's just it was just really cool to see how that played out, because like I said, I understand why Kirby Smart wants to play that way, and because it just benefits everyone. And for them to be able to do what they did on Saturday against Tennessee, it's just what we're used to seeing. It's just what we're used to seeing.
Oh yeah, and when you're time of possession, and it's funny because I was watching the game. I wasn't home at the time, so I'm like watching the game wherever I was watching the game. It's another story, but watching the game, and I'm like,
wait a minute now,
like 41, right?
It was like what?
41 minutes. I was like, whatever. I was doing what I was doing. I was watching the game too, because I knew we were going to be talking about it. But 41 minutes time of possession. I mean, that is crazy. But that speaks to, we're going to dominate. And if you're going to try to do, and I'm going to put it in quotes because we know that Lane Kiffin was probably more about that exotic offense life, than maybe Josh Heupel. But anyway, if you're trying to do up tempo and trying to use that to kind of throw the Dogs defense off, but you're literally getting 3 and outs, and the offense is like, thank you very much for getting it back, because we've got we play complimentary ball. We can stay on this field for 41 minutes. And for the 19 that you're on the field, we're actually going to smoke you, with the exception of that one play that, everybody kind of talked about until things died down. And that was, of course, the one you guys referenced with Jalen Wright going 75 yards for a touchdown on the Vols' very first snap. But, okay, great. Brent, that made it 6 straight games, and Georgia's opponents have scored on that opening drive. But you cannot knock the fact that the defense then held them to 3 points the rest of the way. So are you more concerned about the fact that the defense gave up that score yet again on the first drive, or are you more confident in the fact that that same defense also held them to 3 points the rest of the way?
Would only be concerned if it continued, and it just doesn't.
Yeah.
So now, did someone continue it? Yes. But then also they might stop Georgia Tech or stop Alabama on the first drive, and the offense be looking around like, wait, what? We're usually down 7-0 here. Come on, what's the deal? A little uncomfortable.
Like, that's so comfortable. It's so consistent, right? Like, wait a minute, hold on now. We used to being down and having to score, and then
and trying out and getting ready to score, right? As an answer, And the thing about it is, to kind of an extension of what you're saying, Brent, is you'd be concerned if they continued it because, hey, we're kind of almost accustomed to 7 points on that first drive. If you go 7 points on that second and maybe third drive, then we need to start being a little bit more concerned about what the defense is able to do, right? Or not do in that case. So listen, we'll talk next up in a second. But first, let's talk Prize Picks and your chance to connect with Jarvis on Subtext.
Listen up, guys. Jarvis Davis here for Prize Picks. Let me tell you, Prize Picks is the biggest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. Yes, that's it. A pretty big deal. Yeah, if you haven't gone to the Prize Picks, I need you to go to prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege because it's just you against the numbers. None of that sharks and all these pro guys that have been doing daily fantasy sports for the past 50 years. I don't even think fantasy sports been going on for 50 years, but hey, y'all follow me here. I get the drift. So all you got to do is pick more and less than on a 2 to 6 player stat projection and catch the winnings roll in. Watch them roll in. That's all you have to do. So Prize Picks even offers a reboot policy so that your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. For football and basketball games, if you have a player who exits the game in the first half and does not return in the second, that player is rebooted. Prize Picks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with an injury insurance policy, folks. I'm telling you, this is not going on anywhere else but Prize Picks. So I want you to go to prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege. That's prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege and check out Prize Picks because they make daily fantasy sports easy. Also, guys, I want to tell you also about becoming a Locked On Sports Atlanta Insider. What is that, Jarvis? A Locked On Sports Atlanta Insider is, hey, you go on to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnSportsAtlanta, and you can become a Locked On Sports Atlanta Insider. All you got to do is start the free trial. It's a free trial for 2 weeks. If you don't like it, you can get on, or if you do like it, you can stick around because it got some really cool stuff, as far as, all 22 review, all of that stuff. We got that right there waiting just for you. So it's a really cool thing that I'm trying out. So make sure you guys check it out. And hey, see if you like it. And if you do, go ahead and become a Locked On Sports Atlanta Insider today.
All right. Time for good old-fashioned hate on the flats this Saturday. Georgia brings it up from Athens all the way down here to the A to take on Georgia Tech in the final regular game of the season. Now, I will say this. Let's give Georgia Tech some credit because essentially they are a different kind of Georgia Tech team than maybe the ones that the Dogs have faced in recent years. Hey, Brent, I say that with all seriousness. We already know Georgia's going to win. But the question becomes, how competitive do you expect Georgia Tech to be in this game?
I think it'll be much like the year ago. I mean, they were very competitive in the first half. It could have been worse, actually, because Georgia Tech just missed a few plays. They had a drop early in the game. But the biggest difference now, especially with Key as the head coach now, and then also offensive coordinator Buster Faulkner moving over from Georgia there, is competence. Like, they are a competent football team now. If you give them opportunities, they can take advantage of them. And given that, and given the semi, I guess you could say, rivalry part of this game or nature of the game, you never know. But yes, I expect it to be a lot like last year, where it is competitive and they do some things to Georgia because of how well they know them. Mm-hmm. But in the end, talent will win out.
Indeed. And Jarvis, you can say not just competent, but confident too. You have a Georgia Tech bunch that's really confident. They're going to a bowl game for the first time in 5 years. So they're kind of walking, a little bit like proud peacocks here. So yeah, do you expect them to be competitive as well?
Absolutely. Because when you think about, I actually got a chance to check out the game against Syracuse last week, the game that actually became bowl eligible. And guys that just stood out, Jamal Haynes, the dude is a talent. The guy has talent. He's explosive. He was just making Syracuse look like they were just standing in mud, right? And for them to, we're just not used to seeing that at Georgia Tech, right? Because Jeff Collins, with all the hoopla and all of the promotions and commercials and all the endorsement deals.
No substance. No substance.
Right.
All style.
No substance. Right. All style, kind of style, but no substance. Like Brent said, because at the end of the day, it's all about football. I get the whole promotional thing. You want to get the kids excited about the program, but at the end of the day, can I learn something from you? that's the biggest selling point. And we've seen how guys coming to Georgia, they get better. Like guys get their talent get maximized in college, and they're able to, get to a certain level where they can go to the NFL as well. So that's what guys want. College players, they want to be taught. And I think that, Brent Key is doing that. And also with Haynes King, the transfer portal quarterback from Texas A&M, he's leading the ACC with 26 touchdowns. Like, who thought that? Like, after watching, Georgia Tech's offense being run out there these past few years, it's just like they didn't look confident. They didn't look capable. I'll throw another C word out there for you, Brent. Capable. They look capable on offense. Buster Faulkner has come in there and established a system where they were averaging, 17 points last year? Now they're averaging 31 points. That is a big jump. So it just lets you know that, hey, Brent Key has brought in the right guys. He has a very capable coaching staff. And, yeah, Georgia, I'm not saying Georgia's going to lose. I'm definitely not saying that. But they better doggone be ready for that first punch, because Brent Key, they're gonna be ready to throw that first punch, and Georgia's gonna have to be ready to respond.
Yeah, and some of what his staff understands as well is the style is not going to work. That's not really what's going to bring in more of those 3-star, 4-star, and dare I say probably every now and then get a 5-star recruit, but it's what you actually do on the field. And he started that last year when you saw, like Brent said, in that first half, at least against Georgia, they were competitive. And then a ranked number 13 North Carolina team, you beat them. So when you think those are the statements that Georgia Tech started to make last season to say, hey, this is going to be a different Jackets team come next season. And we're kind of seeing that. And even Kirby Smart, he was asked about their identity, and he said, hey, it's tough, it's physical, it's fast. That's what they see in Tech's identity. What do you guys see as Tech's identity?
I think it's the same word, competent. Like I don't like, they actually look like a football team now. Like, and you can watch them and see, like, all right, they got chances. They can do things. They can hurt people. They can take advantage of mismatches. They can create mismatches. Like that's who they are now.
Yeah. And that's not something we've seen in the past at all, to be honest.
No.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing to see, because to be honest with you, I grew up really liking Georgia Tech. Like, being from Atlanta, so I never was the biggest fan of Georgia. But like you said, it's hard not to be a fan because of what they do on the field. And I think that's the draw. That's the draw, like playing really good football. And I think that Brent Key has gotten off to a really good start as far as, like you're saying, being competent, capable, having talent that looks like they belong in a Power 5 school. Like we've seen that. You've seen that this year. And I think that's going to be something they're going to be able to build off on in the next couple of years.
Yeah, because I can't tell you deep into November that I thought we were going to be talking about a Brent Key's Jacket team. I thought we'd be talking about a Damon Stoudemire Jackets team, but not a Brent Key team at this point in November. Now, the other thing is, if we go back to our identity, because we always talk Georgia's identity before we wrap the show, and going into week 12, Oscar Delp said that's actually Georgia's identity too. Quote, he says, we just want to be a physical, tough team that goes in there every game and makes the other team quit. What do you guys say about your word for Georgia's identity this week?
Professional.
Slap them on the lips.
I like it. The professional.
Slap them on the lips, like quote Hugh Douglas. Slap them on the lips. Like, they're going to eat that first punch. They're going to eat that first punch, and then they're going to make adjustments, and they just going to move. They just going to move like ain't nothing happened. It's like, wait a minute. I thought he punched me in the mouth. Oh, we're up by 25 now. Okay, all right, cool. let's go and get this win and get up out of here. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it. Like, they're gonna take your best punch and eventually dominate you. I mean, that's what it is.
Yeah, it's like another day at the office for them. Yes. Every game. And so yeah, you gotta love the professionalism. I think that's a great word. And then, guys, of course, we know we're a couple days away from Thanksgiving. So Brent, what are you thankful for going into this Thanksgiving holiday?
Today, I never take today for granted. Today is a great day. Faith, family, and then the fact that we get to talk about this great game. Football is awesome. I love football, and we get to talk about it.
Yeah, indeed. How about you, Jarvis?
Yeah. Oh, I'm also thankful for family, like faith, and just being here in football. I'm thankful for you guys, because you guys, put up my stuff, and on every Tuesday, talk about the Bulldogs and my silliness. So yeah, I appreciate you guys, and I appreciate, everybody that, check us out on a daily basis, our everydayers right here on Locked On Sports Atlanta. So, yeah, I'm thankful for a lot. So, yeah, a lot to be thankful for, and hey, hopefully I can match it up with some food on Thursday.
Yeah.
I have no problem there. No problem.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that's a given.
I can take care of that business.
Right. Yes. I'm texting and calling with my aunt, texting and talking with my aunt yesterday and this morning, because of course I'll be going back to New Orleans tomorrow. And you guys know we were already strategizing, like, who's going to be responsible for what and what time's the food going to be prepared, because it's such a big deal. Like, food is the central part of our lives in Louisiana. So we had to strategize about that. But to you guys' point, so is football. So we had to talk about the games we were going to watch and kind of what we thought about that as well. So yeah, just it's a blessing to be here. So I got to go with you guys as well, with faith and family. You can't take that for granted, because not everybody is in a position to be able to hug on their loved ones and be around them for the holiday. But yeah, I mean, we get paid to talk football. What the heck? Like, we are living our indeed best lives. So yeah, we're very thankful for that. And like you guys said, thankful that every time we ask you to like and subscribe on our YouTube channel, you actually do it. But in case you haven't, that would be something that would make us thankful going into Thanksgiving as well. So as always, we thank you guys for stopping by the Atlanta Football Party, because it is the best Georgia Bulldogs football talk. And don't forget, come back tonight, because hopefully on our Hawks postcast, we'll be able to talk about a win for the Hawks as well. You guys have a safe and fun Thanksgiving, and football-filled Thanksgiving too.